Hello everybody, welcome to Recovery TV Live. This is my colleague Carrie, I'm Josh, and we are going to talk to you today about reflection aggression, so don't go anywhere. Hey everybody, we appreciate you being here watching Recovery TV Live. We have a really cool episode today, or at least an interesting topic of discussion. We're not going to do cartwheels or anything like that today. But before we begin, though, I just want to remind everybody that YouTube and Facebook and those type of platforms are all public, and so we want you to engage with us and ask us questions. And our assistant Hannah is standing by to filter through those questions, but just remember that it's a public platform, so we can't keep your identity anonymous. So you can see on your screen that there's an email if you want to send an anonymous question. Again, Hannah is standing by, and we'll filter through those questions throughout the episode if we get any in this episode.
Right.
So,
sure.
But to begin, we're going to talk about this concept that we call reflection aggression, and it has to do with betrayal trauma. And so, as many of you may know, Carrie and I are betrayal trauma trained, I guess you might say. We have a specific training, and the bulk of our clinical practice over the last several years has been working with individuals and couples who have experienced betrayal trauma. And you can check out some of our videos on YouTube about that. But basically, it's an umbrella term that we use to talk about infidelity or multiple accounts of infidelity and even sex addiction. And so, but then there's this concept that we came up with in the last couple of years that we call reflection aggression. And we just did a YouTube video on this, so you can actually go watch that too if you want.
Right.
But we're going to have a conversation about it, and if people have questions, you're welcome to ask us questions about it.
I think, Josh, you should kind of talk about how this term, how this phenomenon came about, even as we discussed it together.
Yeah, so basically what was happening was as we were working with couples, and we have a team approach to treatment in our facility, Carrie and I would get into these dialogues, and one of the dialogues we had was, I think I told you that I have a lot of clients that are asking me, the client that's the sex addict or the person who committed the act of infidelity, at some point in treatment, usually further along, they'd start asking, is it possible my partner is gaslighting me? And so it was happening enough that I thought it'd be worth talking to you about, because if it happens once, you're like, it's probably not, but then several different clients started asking, and so we started dialoguing about it. And what we determined is what was happening, it wasn't gaslighting, but it looked like it a little bit. So the answer in a nutshell is anybody can gaslight. Right. So yes, absolutely, a betrayed partner, an injured partner can gaslight. But is that what's going on in treatment? Probably not.
Right.
And so, but it's something, and that's what we kind of put our heads together and was trying to identify what is this thing that's happening,
and where is it coming from? What does it say? Because it was also happening as we would staff together as a group. It was happening at certain kind of places in treatment. It wasn't at the beginning. It was kind of maybe towards what we call the yucky middle, right?
Yeah.
As they're starting to transition, it was happening when people were starting to make some progress. And when you keep seeing something as a roadblock when people have been making some progress, it's an important thing for us as a team to sit down together and try and think, well, what is this, and what does this mean, and what do we do about it? Right.
Yeah, and I like that you said, like, it's kind of transitioning into the middle, like this phase of treatment. So it's not at the beginning; it's after. Usually, not all the time, but usually we're still kind of fleshing this out a little bit. But it's usually as the couple is a little bit further along into treatment, then all of a sudden this phenomenon starts happening where the acting out partner starts feeling some aggression coming from their spouse, and usually there's some of that in the beginning, anyways, because of all the hurt and pain that the betrayed partner is going through. But it kind of subsides in the beginning, and then it picks up again. And that part where it picks up again, it was kind of the thing that really struck us as what is happening here. And it does kind of look like gaslighting a little bit, but it's not. Just we just want to put that out there for all the partners watching this. We do not believe it's gaslighting. There is a reason for what's happening. So let's talk about
I think we should also make sure. I mean, gaslighting is such a kind of pop term that perhaps it doesn't need any description, but I think we should pause for a minute and just make sure that we're just referring to it. Gaslighting is the intentional distortion of someone's perceptions so that they're questioning themselves instead of the actual reality of what's going on. And so when you're gaslit by someone you care about, it's a very, very, very painful experience because it's using your own self against you, making you not trust your gut, not trust your eyes, not trust your ears or whatever. It's very disorienting, and it leaves a mark for a while. And so when we started seeing it coming from the betrayed partners, and we would hear the acting out partners say, "I think they're gaslighting me." We would start, that's one of the reasons we were questioning is, are they trying to get their person who's in recovery to question themselves? That didn't seem to fit. And that was one of the reasons that we were like, it doesn't fit with gaslighting.
Yeah, plus on top of that, they're usually really familiar with what it feels like to be gaslit.
Absolutely.
And so they have don't have any intention, or not that the other person did, but you know, it's just not what's happening. It just kind of has some familiarity to it. So let's give an example. Talk about with reflection aggression, or kind of give you guys an example of what we're talking about what our clients would be experiencing. And so basically, you know, they would be headstrong into treatment, doing everything that's being asked of them, working hard to have a voice to speak up, because that's one of the things that we have to work on. Because that, in my opinion, is at the heart of why a lot of people do act outside of their marital vows or the relationship there. Is because they don't have feel like that they have a voice, and they need to have a voice. They need to speak up about things, and so they start doing these things, and they're learning to be gentle and loving and things like that, and then all of a sudden they start experiencing things or statements like, remember, you're the one who hurt me. Remember, you're the one that did this. You're, you know, kind of questions like, what are you up to? What are you hiding something? Because the partner's experiencing a lot of new behaviors. And so it's normal and logical, really, to question that and not trust it. But then when they experience that, there's this aggressive piece of, you know, you're the sick one. You know, you're the one who did this. And the acting out partner will come back into treatment or back into therapy, and they'll say, like, I've been doing everything that's being asked of me. Like, am I crazy here? And that's when it triggers gaslight for them, because we often call gaslighting crazy making. And so when they go, am I going crazy here? Then they're thinking, is my partner gaslighting me? You know, and after a few people started telling me those stories, I was like, well, I don't know. I guess we need to look into that.
Right. And I think that that aggression, that the ferocity, a lot of times that betrayed partners will demonstrate, that it does look, you know, ferocious, and it does look scary. And for the person who has, you know, acted out and has been working their recovery program, they say a lot, like Josh said, I've been doing everything I'm supposed to do. I thought I was doing better. I thought I was doing what they wanted me to do, and it's not working. And a lot of times couples get stuck at this space, right, Josh?
Right, yeah.
From a clinical perspective, we can lose people. And so it's really an important, I think this concept, this framework of, you know, reflection, aggression can really help people push through this transition space.
Right. So if you made it this far in the video, we haven't quite defined it yet.
Right.
So let's just talk about what it is, and let's just start with the first word, reflection. So we chose that word because when we started to look at what was happening here at this juncture in treatment, the addict is becoming safer. When I say the addict, the acting out partner is becoming safer and safer by doing treatment, you know. And when if you're in a situation where there is something or someone present that is unsafe, you're not going to care so much about any type of infliction upon your body. You're going to keep your eyes on the threat, right? And so that's what it's like for partners, the betrayed partners, the injured partner in the beginning, is that their spouse is very threatening to them because they hurt them so badly. So they're watching. So they don't have a lot of time to look at their own injury. So as treatment progresses, they start getting glimpses of the injury itself, and it's not good, right? It's deep, it's festering, it's ugly, and it's disturbing to them, and it's also unfair, right?
Yes.
And so it makes sense to look at the other person and say, this glimpse, this injury that I just took a little glimpse at, like, it pisses me off to look at it, and it's your fault.
Right.
You did this to me. So they're taking the opportunity, or they have an opportunity to actually address their own injury, and then they look down and they're really pissed at what they see because it's not their fault that it happened.
Right.
And that's where the aggression comes in.
Right.
Right.
The aggression comes in as, you know, a statement of the insult to injury.
That's a good way to
A
put
lot
it.
of partners will say, I'm different now. I didn't used to be this way. I don't like this about myself. And because they're able to start slowly seeing their own pain and seeing the way that this trauma has impacted them, or what, you know, they're worried about will long-term impact them, that creates the pressure, right? Then that looks like aggression, anger, blame, those kind of behaviors or experiences.
Right. Yeah. So now, the difference is, though, like so some of the similarities. Let's just kind of look at that. With gaslighting, is that gaslighting is makes you question your own reality, right, and not trust yourself. And a second piece is that it gets the attention. The goal is to get the attention off the person who's doing the gaslighting. They don't want that attention, so they want to deflect it, right? So those are actually two similarities with reflection aggression. The partner doesn't want the attention. And what was the first thing I said?
That doesn't want the attention that it
and the intent of gaslighting is to make you question your own reality, right? So, I mean, that's a result. That's a difference, actually, is that in gaslighting, there's an intent to make you question your reality. In reflection aggression, there's a result of questioning your own reality, but there's not an intent to. So there is a difference there, but a similarity in outcome.
Right.
So that's why it can be confusing. But reflection aggression is a way a partner is trying to pace their recovery, or their medicating their injury or tending to wound care, so to speak. You know, it hurts, and it's a lot. It's overwhelming. So to look down at it and just see this gaping wound can be really overwhelming. I need to look back up and and maybe blame somebody for a minute, you know, just so I can kind of deal and regulate my own feelings.
Sure. Processing how insulting it is to have been changed by something you didn't ask for is part of the healing process, and it's not necessarily pretty, right? And so I think that kind of takes us into understanding what it is, and then the question, of course, of what do we do about it. Right.
And that was a question I had for you, actually, was one of the things that, this is actually one of the hesitancies I had about writing the blog, was I used to feel like this is some kind of defect in their character, because it's not. This is part of the process. It doesn't make you the bad guy, so to speak. So what I was want to ask you, because you work a lot with the partners more so than I do, how do you address this with them?
Well, I mean, I think a lot of times you have to normalize the ugly experience.
Right.
It is painful, and we are masters. All human beings are masters at compartmentalizing or ignoring or distracting, or trying to conquer things that are more manageable. And I think that part of trauma work, a quote we use a lot, is getting to the center of the wound. And I think that allowing yourself to experience these really painful, difficult, ugly emotions is a part of that journey to the center of the wound. And so I try to welcome that stuff at my door. I even talk about clients about what to expect, about losing your mind in a public place, or going down a rabbit hole, or crying at unexpected times.
Yeah.
And even some of the old behaviors, maybe from the beginning of obsessions, and over-the-top safety-seeking behaviors. But we kind of try to prep for that,
Right.
and normalize that, because emotions are an important, informant. They're telling you something, and you're not going to get through betrayal trauma and never, acknowledge your wounds, and unless you learn how to even more and more cut yourself off from your body and your brain, and that's not really health. And so I think what we do is a lot of times is giving yourself permission to feel those things. From a couple's perspective, it's also an opportunity for the person who hurt you to be different.
Right.
It is a perfect platform for that person to be compassionate, for that person to show that they're capable of hanging in even when the going gets tough.
Yeah.
And so challenging the betrayed partner to bring that to their husband, wife, partner, and to say, I'm going through something and it's really hard and it may be ugly, right? I may lose it and I need you to hang in there. That's quite a flip of the script for a lot of people, especially
Right.
people who have had secrets for many, many years.
Right. So one thing that you and I have had many conversations about is how, this is anecdotal too, how strong the partners are.
Yes.
Like it almost seems like, it almost seems intentional in a way, like when it comes to the partner selection. It's not, but there is a science behind it. But partners who have been betrayed, and the ones that we've worked with anyways, they're some of the strongest people I've ever met.
For sure, yeah.
So I would imagine that when there's an opportunity to look down and they see how injured they are from this, that just that in and of itself would be insult to injury. So that's one reason why I think, like, addressing this phenomenon that's happening called reflection aggression might initially sting, just because it's acknowledgement of the injury, that I've really been hurt, like in a much bigger way than I anticipated, or I not necessarily anticipated, but that I thought it was in the beginning.
And I think for a lot of people, we've had over the many years we've been working with people, we've worked with people in a lot of traumatic situations, and we consistently hear how betrayal trauma is the most painful experience of their life.
Sure.
And so even the most strong, capable, supported person is going to feel completely, rug pulled out from under them, inept on the floor in trying to deal with this. And that doesn't mean that the partner's not capable or strong, and that they're just hurting.
Right. So if you're a partner watching this, just know that that if that's something that you are experiencing, it's not a defect in your character,
Right.
But it does mean that you've really been injured. And from my view of it is that as much as it sucks to be in that position and to not have your body and your mind like you
Right.
used to. I mean, I'm dealing with a knee injury right now, and it's depressing. I hate it. I hate not being able to move like I normally do. But at the same time, you get to be human through this process.
That's
And that's an important thing that I want to share. Now, you did mention in your in one of the things that you were saying about the key of compassion, the issue or the component of compassion in there. And that's the approach I take with the acting out partner. So One of the things that we do talk about is that, it isn't okay to be injured in response, although they're often willing to take that,
A lot of
because they
times,
feel,
sure.
yeah, because
They feel
their
so
shame and
shameful.
guilt. It's like they deserve this, I deserve that, and but self-respect, self-love is, or the lack thereof, is part of the problem
Absolutely.
that led there. So ultimately, I let them have that shame and guilt in the beginning, but we got to start working them out of that and start learning to really care about themselves and care enough to be open and transparent with their partner, right? So we do talk about, like, if the reflection aggression behavior does
Right.
kind of cross a line
Sure.
into mistreatment, then it has to be addressed in that
Absolutely.
way.
With
But-
clear boundaries.
Right,
Compassionate, but still clear boundaries.
right.
Sure.
But at least I hope that this is the experience my clients have, because it's my intent, is to constantly remind them of that, basically what the partner's reminding them of. They're really hurt and you did it. At least a large extent of it.
Sure.
The gaping wound that,
Sure.
that they have, that belongs to you. So you have to remember that as you move forward with boundaries, with accountability,
Right.
and
Right.
and the way to do that is compassion. So I try to hammer compassion, 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 compassion.
Right.
Remember their injury, and it's not something that just goes away overnight, and it doesn't go away because you get better. And that's a
Right.
hard reality for both parties.
Absolutely, absolutely. And
Yeah.
I think that when I work with partners, that we talk about being able to share that pain with your partner, and preparing that your partner, a person that's working recovery should have some boundaries and limits. It reflects their self-worth. And just because you're hurt and upset, it's, that golden rule. It's not okay to hurt other people. Abusive reflection aggression is still abuse. And I think that it's also wise, and that we talk about, that your partner's also not the only place you can take that anger and that hurt. That's why you have therapists. That's why you have groups. That's why you
Right.
have friends. That's why you have 12-step or community groups. That's why you have exercise, is because you can work that stuff out too. And that's not that having multiple ways to process your emotions is the best method.
Right.
It's not just about taking it to your marriage or your committed relationship and expecting that to be the only place that you work through that. That's actually, I think, a fool's gold.
Right.
And so treatment is expansive, right? Getting better and mental health and wellness is expansive. It's about taking care of yourself in many, many ways.
Right.
And for both partners, we really want to hopefully have already established some of that by the time we're at the phase of treatment where we're starting to see this pattern that may look like reflection aggression.
Right. Yes. So we have rambled on quite a bit. I'm sure at this juncture we have a plethora of questions waiting for us.
Are people going, what are they talking
Based
about?
upon Hannah's response, my assumption is negatory
Okay.
on that,
Right.
on the questions.
People have to
thing,
chew
so.
on it, right? That's what
Yeah.
it is. We're making people just pause and think.
Right.
Right.
So, but if you are watching this either live or on the rebroadcast, feel free to ask a question. The best way to do it is to do it anonymously if you're watching the rebroadcast.
Right.
Because we're probably not going to, some of the questions probably warrant more than just like a single
A
line
few,
response.
yeah.
So we don't want to be typing in questions or answers to questions, but you can definitely submit them anonymously. And also too, if you have questions just about, where do we find a counselor that can help us with this, and what type of credentials are we looking for, we can direct you in that way as well.
Right.
But in the meantime, we appreciate anybody that's watched this live or on the rebroadcast. The goal is to to get this information out there.
Right.
Reflection aggression is something that we're still fleshing out in a lot of ways. I have
Absolutely.
plans to write another blog on it that has to do with compassion. But we're going to try to do these live videos once a month, and I can't remember what the topic is next month, but whatever it is, you guys can tune into it, and it'll show up eventually, and you can tune in and watch, and we'll keep discussing more things related to betrayal trauma, mental health, relational health, and things of that sort. So